pop into our WordPress site. So hopefully before we've done this, you guys have installed the Yoast SEO app, or not app, but plugin. I've had it for a while, so I didn't think to actually tell everybody, hey, make sure you've got that ahead of time. So yeah, make sure that you do indeed have that. And where we'll go, we're going to go into the back end of a post. Let's go ahead. We're going to pick this one. This is my most recent post. My son, he's so cute. All right, here we go. So I just put this one up yesterday. And what I'm going to do is jump into the edit feature of the post. And then once there we go, giving it a second to load. There's a couple things that I see right away. So the first thing is over here on the right side of the screen, do you see where there is a little kind of stop, go, we call it stoplight traffic signal? That is what is going to be telling you how your post or page is doing as far as its searchability, its SEO strength, things like that. So this one has a green, which is awesome. Funny story about this page specifically is that as I was building it, without trying, I ended up with green lights all across the board without having to update anything, which was pretty cool. And I'll get to what that means in just a moment. There we go. Okay. So as you scroll down, nothing really exciting going on here. I do use Jetpack for my galleries now. I just started doing that not too long ago. So I have to go through and fix a whole bunch of posts because Jetpack has really streamlined my site and made it so that any large images don't load anymore. So I have to go through and find those and put in new, more compressed images, which is kind of surprising. But anyways, here we go. At the end of your post, you see the actual plugin and you can see all the different functionalities. The first thing, and again, please use the little chat area, or I'm trying to make the Q&A feature work, but for some reason I can't make it work. And I don't know why. But yeah, go ahead and use the group chat function if you have a question, and I will try to pop back over to it and answer any questions as I'm going. And if I'm talking too fast, tell me to, because I don't want to copy. Anyways, here we are. This is the actual area where we can update the back end of a post to make it much more SEO friendly. So I'm just going to start on this section, and then I'm going to switch over to the social sharing section because I think that's a really key one that is really helpful. The focus keyword is going to be, of course, your most important thing that you establish here. For me, on this post, it is Fort Worden, because that is what it's about. It is an area that's kind of close to me. And what it's going to look for is that Fort Worden is found in all kinds of different places within your post. So not just that the title is Fort Worden or that the URL is Fort Worden, but it's searching everything from alt text to how many times it shows up, all kinds of stuff. So starting here at the top, content analysis. Copy scores 73.8 in the place reading test. So as you start to use this tool, if you haven't already, something you'll notice is that it does actually kind of read your post to see, is this written for like a 5th grader? Is this written for a college statistics professor? Who is it written for? And the higher the score, the better, which is awesome. I've got a couple posts that I need to update that score in the 5% because I wrote them really academically, which doesn't really fly with internet users these days. I don't know why. So anyway, so that's the first thing you're going to want to do. There's nothing wrong with having a low score in that, but as far as being shareable and connecting with a larger audience, you want it to have a better score to be able to improve who it is that is reading your content. So text contains 1,916 words. It does also check for that kind of minimum word of 300. Reason it has a minimum there is because you want to be able to have your keywords show up a certain number of times without sounding weird or repetitive. So 300s is the recommended minimum, and that's going to be something maybe just like here's a quick shot I took, here's 2 paragraphs, and call it good. I don't like to do posts like that, so all of mine are way above the 300 word minimum. Not really something I ever get either a yellow light or a red light on. The focus keyword appears in the URL of the page. I've discovered that sometimes I will save a post without updating the title prior to its very, very first save. And when that happens, sometimes the URL is left as kind of a numeric permalink, or just a URL that doesn't make a ton of sense. Maybe for this post, I titled it Beaches, Bunkers, and Beauty. That was actually what my original URL was. So I did have to fix that. That's the one thing that wasn't quite right. I forgot about that. So that's what that part's for. Keyword density, like I said, that's where you're going to want to have it show, your keywords show up plenty of times, but not necessarily be way too repetitive that it becomes really awkward. For example, I wrote a post about the waterfalls of the Columbia River Gorge, and as I was writing it, I made sure that I started every single paragraph with the waterfalls of the Columbia River Gorge. And really quickly, like the second time I read it, I realized I have to change that. So I found other ways to distribute my keyword throughout, and I still ended up with a good keyword density. I think you get a green light as long as it's 1% or higher. So that's not too difficult to establish. But of course, the higher the keyword density, without it making awkward sense all over, the better for being searchable. The next spot that we're going to look at is right here. It is the specified meta description. Consider, how does it compare to the competition? Could it be made more appealing? So that is where we're up here in the snippet. And watch what happens. When I click on snippet, boom, I can go ahead and I can change the title. This is what's actually, if you aren't familiar, this is what is going to show up on Google search results. So when you actually do a search for it, when it's making the list, it will show up as Fort Worden, Beaches, Bunkers, and Beauty in Port Townsend, Washington. That's what the SEO title is. If I scroll all the way up to the very, very top, where I have my real title, it's just Fort Worden, Beaches, Bunkers, and Beauty. So I've left out the actual location of Port Townsend from the general title, but I made sure that for my SEO title, it does include that. Because it could be that somebody is searching for beaches in Port Townsend, and they don't know that, oh, I should be looking for Fort Worden. So that way it kind of groups it all together. Below that, you see your slug, and that's going to be the actual part of the URL. And then the meta description. This is where it's very much key that you've got a couple of your big words in there. So for me, Fort Worden, which is my focus keyword, shows up right there. And then Port Townsend also shows up, which, like I said, I put it in the SEO title as well. And then the other things I wanted to make sure that I hit on were day trip, lighthouse, and family travel. So my site is focusing on family travel. I've been trying to be good about including family travel in the meta description, because sometimes I don't throw it into every single paragraph within my actual copy. So that's a good way to be able to give it a little boost for that. All right, so here we go. The meta description. So we just talked about making sure you've got your keywords in there. So that's good. And also, a lot of people like to give their posts intriguing titles or ask a question. That's a great spot to do that there in the meta description, because that's what's going to be showing up on Google search results. Meta description is what we talked about, focus keyword, things like that. The images on this page contain alt tags with the focus keyword. So something I try to leave for feedback when we're doing some bigger like dig-in threads or sharing threads is when I go to pin an image that isn't the preferred pin image, I find a lot of images that are titled IMG AH123 like that. So what I'm trying to do and what I've gotten done on my entire site, every single image that I've got includes, it's all words. So some of my images have crazy, crazy long titles. Like, for example, let's go ahead and let's take a look in this gallery. We'll just look at an image. This image is called Chris Taylor and Little Man on Beach at Fort Worden, Port Townsend. So I make sure that that shows in the title of the image as well as the alt text of the image. And if it's a vertical image, I try to always have totraveldads.com at the end of it. And I remember that I just added this image today. So let me go ahead and add that. Totraveldads.com is now part of the alt text. Because the alt text is what's showing up when you put an image, right? Either alt text or description. I get confused sometimes. I think it's alt text. And so every time that you add your web address to a part of the image, when somebody goes to pin it, it becomes clickable within Pinterest, which I think is pretty awesome. And it just kind of gives you one more boost out there. So that's a big thing that you can do to both increase how SEO friendly your page is, as well as give yourself kind of a free link back every time somebody pins one of your images. So yeah, that's a big fun thing you can do, and it takes a ton of time if you haven't already done that or started it from the get-go. Title of the page. So it wants you to have a longer page title than you might think. So I know a lot of times when I'm reading a book, chapters might be only 3 words. SEO doesn't really like that so much for some reason. I don't know. I prefer it to be really quick and to the point. But it does want you to have at least 35 characters, which is going to be at least 5 words. Typically, that's like, I don't know, 7 or 8 words. So it depends on how you speak and how you word things. But having a longer page title is actually worth it to make it more searchable. The focus keyword appears in the first paragraph of the copy. So, for example, if you have not gone and set up the metadata right here for your page, or even if you have, if you're using a search engine besides Google, it might not pull it the same exact way as Google does. So the first paragraph is what it might show. So right here, I've got this. Where's my Fort Worden? Where's my Fort Worden? Boom, there it is. It's in the second sentence. So when it's being searched on a search engine, it still is going to have Fort Worden show up in that first little snippet that it pulls, even if it doesn't pull the snippet that you've created. So that's why it wants you to have that. And it's totally worth restructuring a sentence or two to fit it in there. So it's funny, when I actually implemented this tool, I had to go back and redo a ton of my posts because I had written them like stories that did not say it from the get-go. So that's also something that's very much worth the time. And then the focus keyword appears in 5 out of 5 subheadings in the copy. So this is also something that I've recently started doing, is actually using the heading feature. So a lot of times what I was finding was just doing like a bold typeface to offset a paragraph. What I've done is I've changed it so that now I've got, voila, I've got this subheading, H2. It's something that search engines can read as well. So they're going to be pulling subheadings just as much as they're going to be pulling the title of your page or that metadata that you build. So for example, let me go ahead and actually pull up another post where I haven't redesigned it yet. I'm pretty sure that this is one where I have not done the subheadings yet. So when we take a look at it, what do we get? Yep, it does not have its subheadings yet. So this is one that, even though, if you see right here, it does have a green light for SEO right here in this top bar. Once I go through and actually update it, it will score a lot more strongly. And also you can see, look at it. There's one of the pictures that is too large that I need to go in and replace with a smaller image. So that's what your post is going to, how it's going to vary if you haven't done those subheadings. So it's worth doing there too. It just makes it more searchable. There's 2 other things I wanted to hit on before we switch over to the social, and then we'll wrap it up for some questions. Um, let's see. Oh, this is the other thing. You've never used the focus keyword before. Very good. And that's not just because I haven't written about Fort Worden before, but for example, having, say, let's say 3 different posts about Venice, I've used Venice itself as a focus keyword. And so what I did is I went back in time, or not back in time, back into a post, and I replaced it with a longer focus keyword, such as Venice transportation or transportation in Venice. I don't recall which one it was and what I used, but that was a way that I varied it. And instantly, I changed like 3 different things in its SEO rating, and it gave me a little gold star. I was pretty excited about that. So that's something to do, especially if you are visiting like a destination and you're doing like 4 different things all related to that. Don't just have that focus keyword be downtown Seattle. You might say restaurants in downtown Seattle or museums in downtown Seattle, things like that, to give it some variation to make it stand out. So that is it for the general thought. The other thing I wanted to hit on before I just take any more questions is the social side. So here we go. Just going with Facebook title. This is exactly what is going to show up when somebody clicks share or pastes your link into Facebook to share. So make sure that it doesn't just say, I don't know, in my case, just Fort Worden bunkers or something like that. Also know that sometimes it will save whatever your original title is, so you may need to go in and update that. Facebook description, this is also that little snippet that's going to show up on Facebook. This might need to vary from your metadata description, but if you got something really solid there, great, go ahead and leave it. This is also one of those opportunities to kind of pose a question or kind of bait somebody to click into it. Like, what did we actually see in the bunkers at Fort Worden? And you can have that sort of intriguing point in your Facebook description, because, I mean, you know how Facebook works. People click on things because they're curious, not because they genuinely care 100% of the time, but they're like, what? I'm curious about that. Yeah, so then the other thing is Facebook image. You can specify what is actually going to be put up on Facebook. If you don't have it specified, then it is going to just pull the first image that it sees on your site. For example, what I've done is I've got a header image up here. I've seen it pull that, or if I share it into Internet Explorer, it pulls this image instead of the first one from within the post. So I've got, you know, a pinnable image as the first one within the post, but sometimes it pulls that. So this is a great opportunity to make sure that you're in control of what is being shared. So it's just that you can just, you know, put the URL, and I make sure that for this, it's always whatever my pinnable image is. And it's the same thing for Twitter. So it matches everything almost exactly. And then you see how it does say the recommended image size? That's a great thing to go with if you want it to show perfectly in Twitter. And, you know, a lot of us use Canva. And if you don't use Canva, it's a great tool to use. And you can go ahead and either select the pre-designated Twitter image size, or you can do custom dimensions. And it's worth it to take the time to build an image that's like that for that best sharing. That is everything there. The other thing I wanted to hit on is just the pin it button. I don't know if anybody else has the pin it button installed. I've seen it on a couple sites, but it's very, very helpful for ensuring that when somebody does click pin it, that your exact description that you want of the pin to show up. And like I mentioned before, adding your website on there makes it clickable. So if you go to this and click my pin it button, you're going to do that. It's going to say totraveldads.com. And then when you see it on Pinterest, it will be clickable, not just by clicking the pin, but by clicking that hyperlink. So those are my tips for using Yoast, and I'm rolling with that. So Jamie had a question about specifically having a long search title, such as 4-day road trip through southern Iceland, I think it was that she said, and whether or not that should be simplified, and that it is helpful to have a longer title so that you can compete against other higher ranking sites. You do still want to have a very specific title, because when you make it simplified, like for example, let's say that somebody is very much looking for, that road trip through Iceland. If you just say Southern Iceland as your keyword, then if somebody types in Southern Iceland, they're going to get this long list of things for Southern Iceland, versus if you type in road trip through Southern Iceland, you are going to go into a much, much smaller bucket. So it kind of depends. I mean, what is it that you want? Do you want to be like a page 2, page 3 search result when you've got all these other, pay for play people showing up? Or do you want to be like a page 1 for that really specific niche? I mean, are you trying to just get lots of people to visit you, or lots of specific people to visit you? I hope that makes sense. For example, with the post that I was working with, the Fort Worden one, that has a really simple keyword search, but it's also something that I used a ton through the entire post, and it's a topic that is not going to be a #1 search thing for lots and lots of people. So I should still be showing up pretty high in the search results. Might not be page 1 because it is so generic, but hopefully it is a lot higher because I was able to use it so many times in, like I said, a way that's not too awkward. Always start with a picture, and then Yoast thinks my keyword isn't in the first sentence. So for SEO, I need to stop doing that. Okay, that's a good question. Once upon a time, I also started with a picture, and it made it so that it just did not work out as I would want. It was making it so that what was searchable was just the alt text of whatever that very first image that I did. And that, in terms of like updating that to feature the keyword, that worked as far as like fooling Yoast. But also remember, Yoast itself is not Google. It's not the search engine that's crawling everything. So because Google has a certain amount of mystery, I think it's still important to have text to start. That's my opinion, that is completely based off of my experience, but not off of research. So once I was able to change that, then yeah, it got easier for Yoast to like my posts. Yeah, and taking time to restructure posts, I think, is a very good use of time. Especially that way, you're keeping your content relevant, and you're making it so that you don't have to do more work to continue to generate traffic. I think that taking an old post, I think, was it last week that we did something where we did drum up an old post? Yeah, because I pulled up one about picnics. In doing that, you are able to update those headings, use some new tricks and tools that you've learned. And I think that is really, really valuable for keeping your content alive. And I value that because I don't have a lot of time to create a ton of new content. Let's see. Jamie, you have awesome questions. Okay, so Jetpack, and how do you use that for images? How you compress them? So Jetpack, I have learned that for me, I don't use it for compression. It does not work for me for compression because I have really, really high quality images that I, for some reason, never remember to optimize before I start building the post. So what I often do is I build the post and then remember what I need to do. And I've got a compression tool, a plugin that I use. It is called Image Optimizer, EWWW. It maybe isn't supposed to be U like gross, but that's what I think of when I see it. And what it'll do is it will optimize as you bring them up, but then also it can do a bulk optimization and run it across your whole site, which is pretty awesome. It's pretty quick to work, but it also isn't compressing things to the level that they need to be super fast. So something that I've been doing is I noticed that Jetpack prohibits me from displaying images of more than 1 megabyte. And no, EWWW is free. But Jetpack will prevent you from displaying images that are more than 1 MB. So as I find those, like I pulled up that one post that had a whole bunch of blank images in it that I'll be fixing today. I just plug them into Canva, and Canva saves images at like 190 to like 350 K. So it's a great way to just real quick do that, and it also gives you a chance to crop pictures if you decide you want to do that. So that's what I do when I find something that is being kicked out by Jetpack. But Jetpack is also, I don't know, it's been great for being able to make galleries that you can pin from, which that was something that I struggled with before. I had these smaller galleries that I had to build from scratch, and while a lot of people liked the look of them because it looked like Instagram, you couldn't do anything with those. You could only view the images, and now Jetpack has made it so that when I throw in a gallery, like for example, if you go back to my Fort Worden post, I've got a couple galleries distributed through that, and yeah, you can pin, view, save, see full-size image of any of those, which is pretty awesome. Kevin over at Wandering Wagers, that he's the one who kind of showed me what to do and how to do it with that. So he is kind of the Jetpack guy if you want to ping Kevin with extra questions. Can people pin from the post using the pin it button? The pin it button that I've got on there, it's an actual pin it plugin. And what I do with that, I showed you that thing where you scroll down, and then you see the pin it button section. The purpose of that is to be able to, if somebody sees pin it, to structure that whole pin experience, controlling the image and everything. With the actual pinning the images from within my site, it is pulling. Let me pop back over there, and I'm just gonna I'm going to real quick pin something. Why don't you guys all pin something from my site, and then you can tell me what you do. I'm going to pin something real quick, and I'm pretty sure what it's going to do is going to grab the alt text. I have not figured out a good plugin for that yet, as far as making like one canvas description to go with any image that gets pinned. So if anybody has any really great suggestions, I would love to hear that. Yeah, no, the pin it button very specifically is going to pull just what I have already pre-designated. And then I've also got the pin it extension on my browser, and that also doesn't pull the meta description I've made. It very much is just pulling whatever I've already set as the alt text. So, and something else that's kind of interesting about the variety of Pinterest plugins is they really limit the images that you can grab. So the pin it button allows you to grab an individual image, but it still doesn't hold the description that you created. Does that make sense? Rob, if you use social sharing, does the pin it button conflict with that? Oh, that's a good question. The white spaces. Okay. I don't have a great answer for that. Let me see. I'm going to show my screen one more time so that you can take a look at a really specific image. So right here, hope you guys can see this. I've got this picture of a lighthouse that's in Toronto, right? So when you don't hover it, I go like that. I get both the pin it using the pin it plugin, as well as a little pin option at the bottom that is from the Sumo social sharing. So I think it looks silly that I have both of those, but they each serve a different purpose, and one works well on mobile and the other doesn't. So that's why I've got it. They don't conflict with each other. They both do the same exact thing. So he wants to know if the top pin it button that I have is from the browser, or if that is my actual plugin tool. And this pin it button right here, that is the actual plugin tool. So when I click that, it goes ahead and it grabs the pin that I've created. And then voila, there is the description that I built using the plugin. So, and then you can go ahead and pin it someplace fantastic. Maybe, well, we'll put it over there. And that's how it works. Something else I just noticed on my own dashboard within Yoast is that it also will tell you just how many of your posts you need to work on. So Yoast will also tell you how many of your posts or pages you need to create keywords for. So that you can just view on your standard WordPress dashboard. So if you get to your dashboard and just scroll down, you'll see there's a Yoast SEO post overview. And that's when it gives you kind of the green light, as well as the, ooh, you guys need to work on this sort of thing. And you can even click directly into it and it'll give you an entire list and just go right from there, jumping into everything. So, all right, peace out. I'll see you guys later. Have an awesome rest of your day.